So we're looking at the Sacred Order of the Marys, our ancient and future cosmic priestesshood. Okay. And I'm inviting you now to just close your eyes. So let's just all get grounded and get here. And I'm inviting you to just take a deep breath into your heart space and breathe in the light of the stars from which you came. And breathe in the sacredness of this earth that holds you. And I call upon the presence of Cosmic Mother, the Divine Feminine in all of her illuminated forms. I call upon the presence of Divine Father in his pure, masculine, supportive form, who's got our backs, who truly loves us. I call upon the advanced priestess lineage of the Marys that will be uncovered today in its relevance for our lives. Miriam of the Bible, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Mary Paragita of Cleophas, Mary Salome, Mary of Rome, Mary Queen of Scots, and the many unnamed ones. I invite them to walk among us today and awaken within us. And you may open your eyes. So Neil, let me just know how it's sounding.
It it has not cut out, so you're good.
Okay, great. So we settled in. All right, excellent. So not historical, but relevant about today to help set the scene for this Magdalene conference and show how she's a part of the Marys and the Magdalenes, two overlapping priestesshoods. But this is really all about us. You know, many of us identify as starseeds or starborn souls, or know we come from somewhere else, even if you don't use that title. But you know you have origins beyond this earth. You know you came here at this critical time to help midwife a new consciousness. And so today's presentation is for all of us because we're alive at a time when awakening is more and more possible, and it's accelerating at quite a clip. And so the midwifing of a new consciousness has been the mission of the lineage of the Marys, the lineage of the Magdalenes, lineages that are not confined to bloodlines alone. This is a spiritual frequency, a sacred coding, and many of us, male or female, carry within us this vibrational memory of this priestess tradition. And part of our awakening is to reclaim its sacred inheritance. So we are here not simply to observe these dramatic earth and cultural human changes that are happening, but to shape them. We're here to anchor the Sophia Christos energy and to embody the remembrance that divine beingness is still alive through you, through all of us. So we're going to start with this name, Mary. Some of you have heard of me talk about this before, but the name Mary, the anglicized version, going back to the Greek, is Maria, and then going back to the Hellenistic Greek is Mariamne. Going back to the Hebrew is Miriam or Mariam. Going back to the Aramaic, the language that the Marys and Yeshua spoke when they were alive, Mariam. And then going back beyond that, the origin of this term, this name was Mr, Mary or Merit in the ancient Egyptian. And so this meant one who is loved by the divine, one who loves as the divine, one who is the love of the divine. It was not originally a name, it was a sacred title, and it came to be a sacred priestess title that then was transliterated into all those names we just saw. So it's an evolutionary expression, a title of spiritual sovereignty. So let's take that in. And the name Mariamne in particular, which was most strongly connected with Magdalene in these ancient documents, may signify a more ancient priestess lineage or a kind of a spiritual nobility. And it's a coded way to distinguish the initiated Magdalene from the other Marys, some of whom we're going to hear about today. And it's a title associated with soul mastery, and it's very strongly connected with the Sophianic tradition, where Mary Magdalene, Mariamne, is the embodiment of wisdom, or Sophia, and the guardian of sacred rites. So these Marys were in fact a sacred priestesshood. They were holders of divine mysteries, bearers of sacred knowledge, embodiments of cosmic love, and their ultimate mission, as it still is today, as it is ours, is to seed the codes of Sophia Christos consciousness on the earth. So they weren't the only ones helping humanity in this way, but they are a specific lineage that was dedicated to this, whose names are familiar to us the world over. So what is some of this sacred knowledge that the Mary carried and that we as Marys carry? Well, I write all about this in my two books, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, and the more recent one, The Secret Life of Mother Mary. They were masters of divine birth, divine conception technologies accomplished through both parthenogenesis, or virginal conception without the male, and sacred marriage tantra, and other forms of womb mastery. They knew how to commune with star wisdom and Mother, Father, God, and the angelics through various techniques, including sacred medicines. They knew all about healing, self-healing, and the healing of others. And they were very much connected with and purposeful toward the awakening of the divine angelic human within you, with the awakening of the divine blueprint. And so they have a very strong service to humanity's expansion of consciousness and liberation from negative forces, which so many of us have been undergoing throughout our traumatic lives, and that we've been witnessing through for thousands of years in history, and still witness on the earth today. So these Marys are a living lineage. And as we're seeing, many women held this title in the Hebrew and the of the ancient world around the time of Jesus. And we may know some of these groups as Essenes, Therapeutae, Nazarenes, Gnostics, and others. So this lineage is the historically confirmed Marys, those of whose names have been preserved despite the ravages of time. But there are others who may have been lost from our records, or who live on in symbolic devotion. And again, that includes us here today. So the Marys we honor today are the pillars of an eternal temple, historical, archetypal, and very much alive within us. We're going to start with the first famously known Mary, Miriam, sister of Moses and Aaron, named in the Hebrew Bible. She's explicitly called a prophetess. So she's one of the very first women given this title in the Hebrew tradition, telling us that these were wise women. These were psychic women. These were women who could see past, present, and future. They sensed what was going to happen. They helped co-create it, and they helped guide the people in right alignment. We learn that she saved her brother Moses when he was an infant, orchestrating his rescue among the reeds of the Nile. She knew he was to be an important personage in these lineages, and she was not just going to let him be taken into the realms of death. And she led the women of Israel in celebration after the miraculous parting of the Red Sea, where the Hebrew people were able to cross. She told everybody, hey, take up a tambourine and let's dance. We are in sacred gratitude for this. She also challenged Moses when he wanted to marry an Ethiopian woman. She was not in favor of that, and he afflicted her with leprosy, the worst possible condition that anybody could get in the day. And after suffering a week of this, she was able to be healed. So there are many mysteries contained within Miriam as this first named Mary. She was a divine priestess of water miracles, is one way to see that parting of the Red Sea and her celebration of the people crossing the Red Sea. Who's to say it was just Moses who parted that Red Sea? She probably knew water mysteries as well. You know, these people were very, very connected. Moses on the Mount, you know, they were doing, they had Siddhic powers. They were doing miraculous seeming actions. She saved Moses, saving the sacred child, right? This is prefiguring Yeshua. She was a leader, a community leader, a spiritual celebrant, the voice of the divine feminine for her people. As the leprous one who was healed, she was the initiate of purification. And basically, she's nothing less than the foremother of the great line of the Marys, the high feminine bloodline, carrying seeds of prophecy and spiritual leadership that would blossom most visibly in Mother Mary and the other Marys around Yeshua that we're going to learn about. And we can assume that there were hidden descendants of Miriam's spiritual bloodline, other Marys that we don't hear about until divine mater of the Mary lineage. And what we know about her is that she was divinely born herself of her mother Anne. Her mother Anne, Hannah, used the conception technologies that were in these lineages to divinely conceive Mother Mary. There was no male sperm involved. This she embodied the pure qualities of integrity, love, divine receptivity, cosmic authority. She was no passive victim. She was fierce. She was an initiated priestess of ancient traditions, led by her mother, led by the priestesses of the temple to whom she was delivered at age 3. She carried the codes of healing arts, baptizing, exorcising, removing evil spirits from people. She carried the abilities of leadership. She mentored Yeshua. She mentored Magdalene and the other apostles during and after Yeshua's resurrection. She could even be considered the first pope, if we want to use that language. So she shows us that great spiritual power can come through meditation, prayer, mantra work, deep listening, heart-led strength, and more. She was the primo priestess of the womb mysteries involving divine conception. Her conception of Jesus was not accidental or passive. It was initiated, foreseen, and orchestrated through high spiritual intelligence, through her being born into this lineage of divine birth priestesses, through her training. And according to Sri Kaleshwar, she was not only giving divine birth through her womb, but she gave divine death. She literally resurrected Yeshua through her womb as he was placed upon her lap, like Michelangelo's David after the crucifixion. She started spinning her mantras, spinning her quantum connections, working with the angelic forces, gathering the pieces of Yeshua's soul back together, like Isis gathered the pieces of Osiris's body back together, and she brought him back to life. Now, some people feel that this was just on the astral plane. Kaleshwar says it literally was in body form, which is why we have all these confusing descriptions of Jesus appearing after the crucifixion. But Kaleshwar said that literally Jesus and Magdalene went to Egypt, India, where they had children. Whatever medicine you hold, the point is that Jesus was not smashed to smithereens at the crucifixion as these negative forces would have wanted. No, Mother Mary drew him back together. And she still serves as this spiritual mother to us, this bridge between earth and the celestial realms. In her time, she knew how to anoint people and open them to consciousness. She knew how to connect with the interdimensional beings, the angels. The angel Gabriel was one such interdimensional being. She was connected with these councils of light. And the Pleiades, I talk a lot about that in my work. So she was the anchor She was the awakener, and she has continued to serve not only as a spiritual mother to all of us who want to call upon her, but a human mother. Those of us who did not get proper mothering, those of us who felt traumatized by our lives, she's here. She can call upon us. She has fractalized into, however many 7 billion people on the planet. Everybody can call upon her. So let's just take a breath, feel the presence of Mother Mary with us here today before we move on to some of these other Marys that bear the lineage name. Let's take a breath. Just feel that transmission of Mother Mary, this bridge between earth and the celestial realms. A living embodiment of the divine because she was able to complete her ascension. She was able to do what so many of us are longing to do, which is to come into oneness with the goddess head or Godhead. She did it, and that's what makes her a strong guardian of this planet, able to be called upon at any moment. Just let yourself receive that message. And again, this is not about re-Christianizing the world. I'm very strong on that. This is not about re-proselytizing, recolonizing. This is about opening to the celestial, star-level realms that all of these Marys were connected with. So moving forward, the next Mary that we're looking at is a mysterious figure known in the New Testament as Mary of Clopas or Mary of Cleophas. What do we find out? Come to find out in these ancient texts, this woman was Mother Mary's sister. How is this possible? How did Mother Mary have a sister? And how could she also have been named Mary? Well, it seems that, first of all, let's just describe what this Mary of Cleophas was doing. She was one of the three who walked with Jesus. Mary of Cleophas, another that I'll talk to you about. The Gospel of Philip tells us that she was part of the inner sanctum. She was the triangle, the womb triangle around Yeshua. And it is said that she is the daughter of Anne by a man named Clopas or Cleophas. And most likely, this was another kind of divine conception, whether it was parthenogenesis or a tantric union that Anne had with this man. We have to know that this woman was a very high and is major figures around Yeshua. Judas, not the betrayer, but Jude, and Simon, James the Just, and Joseph or Joseph. So she had children. These children, who are sometimes named as brothers of Jesus, were probably cousins of Jesus. And the mother was his aunt. Okay? Part of the inner retinue, we're unveiling this today. Now, she had another name. In the text, we find another name, Parogita. That was her original name. And what does Parogita mean? It means young hen. Why would a mother name a child originally young hen? Well, because of its symbolic attributes. It has to do with fertility in the sacred womb. The young hen expresses the potential for new life, the sacred birth mysteries. It has to do with divine nurturing and protection. The hen is a longtime symbol of feminine protective energy. Yeshua himself would later say, I would gather you as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. And the young hen is a symbol of potential. She's not yet fully matured. She's one who's in sacred preparation in the chrysalis phase before full revelation. So how did she become a Mary? Well, undoubtedly, her mother Anne initiated her into that lineage. She probably had that divine pedigree, and when her mother saw these qualities that Paragita had, she said, "This is a Mary. I'm initiating you. I am giving you all of the attributes. I'm awakening them within you. You are one with your sacred sister who will be known as Mother Mary." So Paragita also became a vessel of sacred feminine light and wisdom, a guardian of spiritual powers and mysteries that are still being revealed on earth, and a carrier of these same Mary, love, womb, mystery, healing codes. She's the one who served the great light quietly, often unrecognized in outer history, yet utterly essential, walking with Yeshua and birthing these sacred holy men who were part of this important retinue. She also was one of the 3 women named as being at the foot of the cross, along with Mother Mary, along with Mary Magdalene, and potentially another Mary that we're going to hear about it. So she was clearly, bonded to this process of the resurrection mysteries. The resurrection mysteries. And now, very tragically, she was not the only Mary to have lost a son to martyrdom. Her son, James the Just, if we are accepting that those 4 young men were her sons, he was killed. He was martyred. He was either thrown off a temple and then beaten to death, or he was stoned to death. So she, like her sister, endured this horrible violence of the negative forces who wanted to pick away, just eradicate all of the Sophia Christos starseeds that were coming to the planet. And then we find that with Mary Magdalene, she were in that legend boat to Gaul, to France, and she taught. She taught along with Mary Magdalene. We don't hear of this Mary Paragita much, but we can find these mentions in these sacred texts and in the legendary traditions. She spread the teachings. So she's part of this circle who was keeping the flame alive, along with Mary Magdalene. And there's another Mary, Mary Salome, okay? In the New Testament, she's the wife of Zebedee, who's this wealthy fisherman. She's probably also a mother of significant figures, too, of the apostles, James the Great and John, the beloved evangelist. She's also one of the myrrh bearers at Jesus' empty tomb. All right, like the Marys are starting to proliferate, and it is in the texts. So who was she really? It may be that she was originally the daughter of Joseph. So Joseph being the guardian of Mother Mary, the one who was entrusted with her care when she she was pregnant with Jesus and so forth. Probably not Mary's husband, had a wife, a previous wife, and in one daughters may conflict the daughters, or it's also said by that famous Jacobus de Voragine in his Golden Legend. He literally says that this Mary is a third Mary daughter of Anne, literally, along with Mother Mary and Mary Paragita, or Mary of Cleophas, is this Mary Salome. So whether this Mary is a blood relative of Mother Mary or a lineage relative of Mother Mary, she again is part of the inner sanctum. She was deeply woven into this soul family and this sacred mission. And she also is named as one of the 3 Marys who went over in the boat to Gaul to teach and spread the seeds. And as some of you know, there is the legend that Mary Magdalene carried with her Sarah La Kali, who may well have been her daughter by Yeshua. Okay, so right, all went over to lineage. All right, take a breath. We're going to be looking here at Mary Magdalene now, the honored guest, the sacred goddess of today's event, Mary Magdalene. Who was she? She was a woman of means. She supported Yeshua's group financially. She was cleared in her field of negative influences, perhaps demons, by Yeshua. So many of us have had to have these depossessions and these clearings, right? Because when we come in, especially if we come in as a starseed, there's a lot of activity in our fields compounded by the traumas that we experience. A lot of times we have to be cleared. And who was she? Her name means the Magdal or Migdal, the watchtower of humanity. That was a nickname given to her. It meant the guardian watchtower. And so tower of strength. And that's who she was. That's who she is. That's who all of us are who are embodying these Magdalene codes. Watchtower. And when we think of the watchers, the negative watchers on humanity, well, she's one of the positive watchers on humanity. She was when she lived. That's why they called her Magdalene. And she is now. And that's why she's, her codes have awakened within us. And she is just so overjoyed that we are all awakening to these understandings now. A lot of times she is connected with Mary of Bethany. There's controversy, but who is this Mary of Bethany? The sister of Martha and Lazarus, the listener at Yeshua's feet. She wanted to hear everything that he said. She just caught everything. This Mary of Bethany, anointed Yeshua's feet or head with costly oil that Judas complained about. He's like, why is she wasting that money? And Yeshua said, look, everything she does is what's happening to me is going to be done in memory of her. But she has anointed me for death. So she was prophetic. She knew what was coming. She was already starting with the anointing that was part of the resurrection mysteries. We're going to talk about what is that anointing really. And she brought devotion, a sense of protection. So she was one of these carriers of the myrrh, prophetess and events to come, healer and comforter. So it may well be that Mary Magdalene that Mary of Bethany was Mary Magdalene in her high initiatic state, after she had gone through all of the initiations, not only of what she had brought to the mission through her own probably walking with the Essenes and so forth, but what she learned from Mother Mary, what she learned from Yeshua as well. She was continuing to evolve all during the time that she was with Jesus. We hear in her gospel, the Gospel of Mary, she was getting all these specialized teachings. She was the one who really understood it. Even the male apostles didn't fully get it. It sounded weird to them, but she was finding out what happens to the soul after death. You go and pass through certain portals. In all of these gospels, Pistis Sophia, these various Gnostic gospels, Gospel of Philip, she's the one. She's the embodiment of divine feminine Sophia, Gnosis. She was their teacher. She became the teacher of the specialized mystery she was receiving. And again, she was this mirror force. So we're going to look a little bit more at that in a minute. And of course, what we're feeling, what we're learning is that she was the wife of Yeshua. And she had sacred children by him through these high initiatory chamber, the bridal chamber, a very deep Gnostic mystery that I talk a lot about in my Mary and Magdalene priestess training, and that I've led people through various versions of this kind of bride chamber. And so, yes, was she the mother of Sarah La Kali? Now, Kaleshwar said they went to India and they had more than one child, and that these lineages now have gone all around the planet. and that their DNA is encoded now within all people because of the spread of the DNA. That's a deep, deep mystery to consider. So their continuing mission is focused on our expansion into multidimensional consciousness, into carrying the codes of sacred leadership, supporting us in carrying the codes of sacred leadership, in connecting with the star realms and bringing love to everything. So these Marys were myrrhophores, carriers of the sacred myrrh. They were initiated priestesses and tenders of the veils between the worlds. Now, in the outer tradition, a myrrhophore is simply one who carries the vessel that contains myrrh, oil, and that goes to anoint the dead. Very nice. But what is that all about? Well, the true Mary myrrhophore is not only one who anoints the body, she anoints the soul. She holds the secret of the sacred oils as carriers of divine frequency that are meant to seal spiritual initiation, prepare somebody for a sacred mission, and then assist in the soul's crossing into the afterlife, as well as open the subtle senses and awaken memory of divine origin while the people are alive. So they were not just performing a domestic duty, they were performing a ritual of cosmic re-entry, restoring the divine imprint into the human form at critical thresholds, before death, at resurrection, during awakening. So these were priestesses of the sacred chrism, the anointing oil. These were prepared through sacred alchemy, often containing, various substances that I'll talk about in a minute. In the months, these myrrhophores midwife the inner resurrection. We've all been crucified. Every single human being who comes to this planet gets crucified. So this myrrh oil, these oils of joy, as they were called, help to awaken the consciousness, especially to those who went into the deeper levels of initiation into these Essene lines. Okay? Not everybody got the oil of joy, but the deepest level initiates, like Magdalene, like the other Marys. And they were even working with these fragrances through resins, okay, and the incense. So it wasn't just the anointing by which they would get that. They would transmit this oil or this frequency that could open consciousness, but through these incenses, through these resins, and that goes back, to ancient Egypt and beyond. So in short, these myrrhophores were priestesses of the threshold, these thresholds of the human being, and of Yeshua especially. They were anointers of kings and avatars like Yeshua, midwives of divine remembrance for many, many of the followers, guardians of the death and resurrection portal, and carriers of these sacred oils that activate the DNA. So what were in these sacred oils? Well, we know that they were frankincense, myrrh, galbanum, spikenard, but probably they also contain things like henbane, hellebore, these wines that were hallucinogenic. They knew the plants, and this is like today. They were priestesses of the entheogenic consciousness awakening mysteries, mandrake being another one. And so there would be high levels of training to get people to the place where they could awaken like this through the medicines. We have echoes of this in the Eleusinian mysteries, where 3,000 people at a time would experience this through the sacred medicines in several nights. But they too had been trained to go into this. It wasn't like, hey, I think I'll go to the Lightning in a Bottle festival and get awakened. These people were trained. They had to know what was going to happen, what they had to do at each gate. They went to the hell realms. They went to the heaven realms. They were serious. Okay. All right. So just to go on a little bit with a couple of more Marys. and then I definitely want to open this to some considerations and some questions. We have this little known woman named Mary, mother of John Mark, in Acts. All right, who's this? Well, it turns out that she had a house. She had a house where people would pray. And so she was also the mother of this figure called John Mark. And this was exactly the place where Peter ran to after he was let out from jail. Okay, because all these guys were starting to get picked off. It was just too much. The forces that were alive in the Roman Empire were like, no, let's get them out of here. And so Peter managed to get out of prison and ran right over to her house where people were praying. So she was holding sacred space. So she was a key leader in this early church. Many were gathered in her house, so she might have been another woman of means. And she was embodying these Mary virtues of hospitality, wisdom, courageous action, thereby protecting this flame of the Sophia Christos teachings when they were the most vulnerable. And as the mother of this John Mark, this John Mark was somebody who would journey with Paul and Barnabas, carrying the seeds of the Christic teachings outward. So she was a mother to this whole movement, like Mary Paragita, like Mary Salome. And this John Mark, some scholars feel, was the author of the Gospel of Mark, showing that she was, critical to the preservation of Yeshua's story. Like, yes, my son, historicize this, write it down. So she's an example of the extended network of priestess guardians, the Marys, and the role of hidden feminine leadership in keeping the Christ light alive, and how this unbroken lineage continued not only through blood, but through spirit and sacred action, because we don't hear that she was in the family of the Marys, but she was in the spirit family of the Marys. And then our final Mary here for today, to show us the context in which these Marys were alive, we've got Mary of Rome. In Romans, things were progressing. Rome was a difficult and dangerous place for the followers of the Christic mission. We hear of another Mary. Paul says, welcome and greet Mary, for she's worked very hard for you. One little phrase. Well, let's midrash that out. Her work was obviously considered essential enough for Paul to publicly honor her, which is really quite a gesture at a time when women were not named, as we know. How many other unnamed Marys and other women are there that we just have never heard about? So she clearly embodied leadership and service. She was working hard for them, and she might have done things similar to Mary, mother of John Mark, like organizing gatherings, sustaining the faithful. Maybe she aided the poor. Maybe she taught quietly. And her presence in Rome represents the expansion of the Mary lineage across continents, no longer confined to Jerusalem, but flowering in the great heart of the empire. And so she stands as among the great hidden pillars of the movement, sacred teachings, an embodiment of unseen but essential service. And I think that these latter-day Marys, those who toiled in difficult times, we can really relate to that, because a lot of us have come in difficult times. We've toiled for our own awakening. We've toiled to support the awakening of others, to keep the flame alive under duress. We've had a lot of attack. We've had a lot of trauma. We've had a lot of misery. We continue to see things keep going on that we know are not right. And yet we're still keeping this flame alive, right? And we've got finally the later bearers of the Mary title: Mary, Queen of Scots, Mary of Egypt, who was a desert saint that merits investigation, and thousands of nuns and laywomen, like many of us perhaps, who have Mary as a first name or a middle name. And the Mary frequency continues on as a soul vibration, the Magdalene frequency as well. These are overlapping frequencies, you know. The Magdalene, who's this active woman who's taking it all out in the world, who's come to us first before Mother Mary, before, you know, in this grand awakening. And for some of us, this frequency of the Marys is very much connected with the Pleiades, as it was for Mother Mary. Seven sisters of the Pleiades as seven world mothers, and we could see Mother Mary as symbolically the eighth Pleiadian sister who brought DNA seed to our planet through Yeshua, as these sacred Pleiadian sisters brought them through other great beings that they birthed here on the planet. And so the Mary frequency, those of us who are involved, are here to awaken, heal, and complete this ancient mission of love, of sovereignty, of light. I want you to consider that the memory is alive within your bones, your blood, your soul. And you're being invited to remember, or just tune in now to your sacred priestesshood or priesthood as a Mary, as a Magdalene, as a Yeshua. You're being invited to tune into your divine connection to the star realms and your role in the flowering of new earth. Meditation, prayer, listening to the voice of the cosmic mother within your own being as you do so. It has to do with engaging in compassion as a sacred act. Simple yet difficult, right? Tending to your own heart with love. I just had a 2-month initiation where I thought I was having heart issues. And it was like a 2-month initiation of opening my heart to a whole new level where, you know, chest pressure, the whole works, like a serious initiation. And I had to tend to my own heart and just say, oh, my heart, I do not take you for granted anymore. I thank you so much for being at the core of my being and helping me to open to these compassion and love mysteries more and more and more. And it's all about speaking truth with humility and tact. That's a form of sacred service. These are the actions of the Marys that we all are. So I want us to just take a breath, take that in, see how that's landing for you. We've got 10 minutes here. I want to open this to question and answer in through the chat. And I know that Neil or Michelle are going to help me with those. But before I go, I want to just show you a couple of resources that I'd like to give you for free. I think there's a QR code. I don't know if you can capture this QR code on your screen by opening up your camera. If you cannot, for the healing and empowering guided journeys that I channeled with Mother Mary, these are all free. Just go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com/Mary-book-meditations, because they're all connected with my Mother Mary book as well, but they're standalones. And then this Mystery of the Bridal Chamber for activating the Christ Sophia light within. It's a free masterclass that goes deeper into what I've been talking about today. And so I will come back with that link for you to just register for that directly. And if you've been touched by this, join us, become part of the Seven Sisters Mystery School's new Inner Sanctum Temple, where most of my library is now available for free. And you get, and a lot of them have to do with the Marys and the Magdalenes. My 7 Mysteries of Mary Magdalene course is in there for free. And you get many up-to-the-minute new monthly teachings, oracle transmissions, mentoring, and community gathering. So please, the sevensisters.com home page, you'll see it there. And right under that, you'll see the mention of the Mary and Magdalene Priestess Training. If you've been touched by this material, if you want to go deeper, there's so much more, as you know, and so much more that you can experience directly. So it's a lot of learning and experiencing We're starting to enroll mid-July, and we're running the course, the training September through February. Again, go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, the homepage, and you will see that and click on that link, and you'll find out what's in store for you with that. So, taking a breath, and I'll see if I can start my cam again. If it goes glitchy again, just let me know, and we can turn it off. But I just want to invite everybody to comment